Dharavi, the biggest slum cluster in the Asian subcontinent, which houses more than 1 million people and 12,000 commercial establishments, has already witnessed multiple attempts at its redevelopment in the past 18 years, all to no avail, until now, when the project has finally been won over by the Adani group. But what's so special about this slum cluster that the Adanis are willing to spend a humongous 25,000 crores for its redevelopment? And why, in what seems like a desperate attempt to back the project, did the Adanis make their bid at more than 5,000 crores, which is 3,000 crores more than the second highest bidder for the Dharavi Redevelopment Project? So in today's episode, let's answer these questions while deep diving, analyzing and trying to understand the intricacies involved in Dharavi Redevelopment Project. Moreover, let's also attempt to bring to light the issues and concerns which come along with the project, which might make this long-standing project a tall order task, not just for the Adanis, but the suffering dwellers of Dharavi as well. Chapter 1. The Goldmine. First things first, let's look at the geographical settlement of Dharavi on Mumbai's map. As we see here, Dharavi is strategically located with the connectivity to the central, harbour and western lines and its 15 minutes proximity to the financial hub of the city, the Bandra Kurla complex or BKC. And this proximity makes it an extension of the commercial area, thereby making it a realty money minting machine, which right now is in a state known as dead land, or in other words, unusable. And to put this into numbers perspective, just a decade ago, BKC was fetching 10 to 11k per square feet for residential properties, which today stands at 65,000 per square feet, which clearly indicates that the appreciation rate is blazing fast, and therefore the obvious interest in the adjoining Dharavi, which seems to be holding the same potential. Alright, we have established that Dharavi has potential, but what about redevelopment? And how will the Adanis gain from this redevelopment? Well, you see, Dharavi's redevelopment will follow the cross-subsidy model, which we will discuss in our next section. But for the time being, the thing we are concerned with is that this model will help the families living in Dharavi to rehabilitate in planned layouts which the developer, in this case Adani Group, will develop at its own expenses. This is where the major part of the whole 25,000 crores will be spent and invested, and people, please note here the emphasis on major part, since the whole 25,000 crores isn't meant for redevelopment alone, but we'll come to that in a bit. This major part of the budget will be used to provide newly constructed homes along with civic amenities like water, power and road and other infrastructure so required to improve the living conditions of the existing Dharavi residents. Coming on to the minor part of the budget. Post the rehabilitation, this is supposed to be utilized to develop real estate over the surplus land, which will bring in big bucks in terms of profit from the fact established earlier that Dharavi is an extension of BKC. So as usual, let's do some maths of our own to get to some concrete numbers. Dharavi is approximately based in a 90 million square feet area. So let's assume that the major part of Dharavi, say 50 million square feet, is used for rehabilitation purposes and the rest 40 million is utilized for sale as a commercial realty project. Then if we consider the real estate rates at 50,000 per square feet for the area, the Adanis as a result are thus expected to generate sales of more than 2 lakh crores, which is a mind-boggling profit of 700%. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a gold mine right there, which also answers our question for the 25,000 investment logic as well as the desperate bid of 5,000 crores. Chapter 2. The architectural remedies and the models to adopt. We've established that Adanis are in for a treat, all because of the surplus land that's going to be left to be utilized. But a very interesting question pops up here. When Dharavi in itself is totally occupied, then how is there going to be any surplus land at all in the first place? Well, this is where the concept of floor space index comes into picture, which is particularly popular in Mumbai. People, if you would have been to Mumbai, you would have noticed that opposed to Delhi, which is horizontal in nature of architecture, Mumbai is vertical in that respect. The city is developing with skyscrapers through and through, which have now in fact become a common thing. And this is where Adanis will be making use of the floor space index or FSI concept. Let's try to understand the same. You see people, before construction of a project begins, the builder is supposed to furnish the details of the building to its respective zonal office for approval. These details specially include the height and the structure of the building. Now, if the project is in an area with metro, the FSI is kept higher due to lack of space. But on the other hand, in villages, the FSI is quite low since ample land is available to build upon. The FSI is calculated with the formula FSI equals to total floor area of all floors of the building divided by plot area into 100. So if you have a 1000 square feet plot on which you want to build a 2000 square feet structure, then by the formula FSI equals to 2000 divided by 1000 into 100, which is 200%, which means they can construct 2000 square feet in a 1000 square feet plot. Now, after years of planning and consulting with top architects of the world, Dharavi has been allowed FSI of 1.4. So going by the formula again, 140% equals to total floor area of the floors of the building divided by 1000 into 100. This gives us the total floor area of the floors of the building as 1400. This means the developer can thus provide a 3-story building of either 467 square feet each or a 4-story building of 350 square feet each, or to cram more into less, a 5 stories of 280 square feet each, which I highly doubt will be the case. So the best possible scenario is a 4-story building with 350 square feet of houses provided to all the residents of Dharavi. This multi-story building will thus be able to provide shelter to 4 families in a one single building, thereby freeing up space for the realty project, and as a result create a win-win situation for both the developers and the Dharavi residents. Going forward, if we take this chapter as a timeline of the Dharavi Redevelopment Project or DRP, we will be able to understand all the business aspects as we go along with the progress of the project without any confusions. So let's define the series of events for the DRP. Initially, Adani won the bidding process for the project. Next, Adani will have to identify a profitable business model to use for the project, post which Adani will form a special purpose vehicle for the investment and operationalizing the project. And lastly, the reconstruction will begin. For step 2 in the series of events mentioned above, the business model which Adani and the government identified to adopt is the cross-subsidy model, under which support for one product or service comes from revenues generated from another product or service. The product in this case are the houses to be built for the residents. Thus, going by the model, as soon as Adani will build these houses, he will be able to free up land, and this land will in turn be used to generate more revenues for the realty-based product houses. This revenue can then be utilized in providing the amenities and other services to the residents, thereby cross-subsidizing costs already incurred. Okay, the business model is in place now. Moving to the next step and on to a very important concept to understand from business standpoint. Since now Adani is all set to start with the project, the parent company, as part of clauses of the bidding process, will now form what is known as a special purpose vehicle. So what is this special purpose vehicle and why will Adani make use of it in the DRP? A special purpose vehicle is either a limited liability company or a joint venture, which is particularly formed to mitigate the risk of the parent company so that it can provide protection to the parent company's assets and liabilities, as well as provide protection against bankruptcy and insolvency. Let's understand this from Adani's and DRP's perspective. Let's say Adani's form a SPV by the name Capsule Corp. Capsule Corp has its own balance sheet and hence is totally distanced from its parent company, which is the Adani Real Estate Company. So now, since Capsule Corp is totally independent and has its own credibility in the market in terms of credit rating, it can easily attract investors to invest in the DRP on its own. Now, with the money raised by Capsule Corp, the real estate project in Dharavi has completed. But no one is interested in purchasing the houses in the project. So Capsule Corp thus starts incurring losses in terms of the sunk construction costs as well as the maintenance cost and the interest expenses on the debt. These losses now cannot be transferred to the Adani parent company since Capsule Corp, being an SPV, was established for just one specific project and purpose. Thus, it's Capsule Corp's own balance sheet which will bear the losses in the end. And thus, ladies and gentlemen, as the chapter completes, the series of events completes as well. Chapter 3. It's all about business, but it should be about people. Dharavi is often looked upon only as a slum with poor people. But in reality, It is an agglomeration of local folks and the migrant communities. There are tons and tons of people making a living, be it either the people turning their wheels to make use of the generational pottery skill, or hundreds of taxi garages and leather units, just trying to make a living one day at a time. But the bigger question no one is asking is, if thousands of such people are uprooted of their working spaces, will they be able to work in multi-story industrial estates? What the government and the developers don't realize is that this is a place where rules of the real estate market cannot be applied blindly and in isolation. If the project needs and nuances of these people are not taken care of, it could result in resistance and revolution from the whole community at large. And this is why the Adanis and the government should be looking at the successful precedents of the Yerwada slums. A big change happened in the slum of Yerwada in Pune, which is only a 2-hour drive east of Mumbai. Yerwada is home to about 337,000 people in an area that is less than 31 square miles. The project was seen as a success because unlike most slum redevelopments, it made the area better without tearing it down and moving the people who lived there somewhere else. Instead, it kept the people who lived there involved and engaged. For instance, the developers made sure that the Mahila Mandal, which is a group of local women, was involved in almost every part of the project. They also held meetings with the community so that people could give their ideas and how to design the project. The people of the slum who worked as carpenters and masons were employed as an integral part of the project to use their skills. Using local workers also cut down on overall costs and made the project feel more like it belonged to the whole community. So when the developers asked the locals to pay rupees 30,000 per house to cover about 10% of the costs, the people were happy to do so because they felt proud that their work had helped make the project happen. Even though Dharavi is bigger and has more people than Yerwada, the success of the project shows that the residents and developers can work together to improve the slum community, and which is why the Adanis need to learn the lessons from this milestone venture. Here's wishing that the DRP project goes well for both the residents of the community as well as the developers, so that it could set an even bigger precedent which the whole world could see and transpire and thus admire. Also, let us know in the comments below what are your thoughts on the DRP. Also, if you like the content, subscribe to the channel and hit that like button below. I'll be back with more such knowledge-filled content. Till then, mindfulness signing off.